Hello and welcome to the integration session where we explore the science, stories, and future of psychedelic science. Today's episode is going to be a bit different from the usual happenings. This will be the first lived experience report where I am joined by someone with a lived experience of psychedelic therapy. My guest today is Diane Gratton, a retired nurse, educator, grandmother, and patient partner living with stage 4 breast cancer. Diane has agreed to share her transformative experience with psilocybin-assisted therapy, including her reflections about her motivations for trying it, challenges she's faced, and the emotional impact of the whole process. She also offers suggestions for clinicians and advice for future patients. As a patient partner with the Canadian Network for Psilocybin-Assisted Cancer Therapy, or CAN-PACT, Diane advocates for compassionate and patient-centered cancer care. I can't wait to share this very human conversation with you all, so let's dive in. Hello, Diane, and welcome to the Integration Session podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today and trusting our listeners with your story. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here.
So for our listeners who maybe don't know you, do you mind maybe starting with a bit about your life? Who is Diane?
Mother and grandmother for grandkids. I did my bachelor's of nursing at Ottawa U. This year will be the 50th year that I've graduated as a nurse.
Oh.
Yeah. But when I got my cancer diagnosis, I told myself, I won't be there for the 50 reunion. But like in 2021, I got a diagnosis of stage 4 breast cancer with bone metastases. So I went through chemo, lost my hair, and next week I'll be doing my 78th treatment. I've been going every 3 weeks to the cancer clinic, and it's sort of a maintenance chemo, I call it. And so I'm doing well, no pain, some discomfort here and there, but everything is quite manageable. And in 2022, after my chemo, I listened to a video, Fantastic Fungi with Paul Stamets, and that's the first time I heard about psilocybin in cancer therapy. And not long after that, there was a documentary in French with 2 doctors who have been accompanying people with this. So I called, and December 23, I had my first Zoom appointment with Dr. Jean-François Stéphane. And we applied at Health Canada in January 24. We got our answer in March 24. And on the 15th of May 24, I went to Montreal, and I was accompanied with 2 facilitators, Dr. Jean-François Stéphane and Dr. Houman Farziz. And I wanted to do this because, I was scared of dying. I did not feel at peace. I was scared. When you get the diagnosis, my diagnosis was, you maybe have 5 years. But then that, when the oncologist tells you that, it sort of imprints in your body, and you just crash physically and psychologically. And I was always wondering, how long do I really have? Is it 5 months? Is it for a few months? So the fact that and I didn't even hesitate for the psilocybin, because my objective was really to feel at peace with what's going on, and not being as afraid to die. So there were quite a few appointments by Zoom before the session to prepare me, and we would work on my triggers. And on the morning of the 15th, in the meantime, Dr. Stéphane said, someone wants to do a documentary on you, on your psilocybin experience. So there was a production team that came to my house 2 days before the session, interviewed me, and they were there. They filmed me during the session, and they saw me after the session. So that was pretty special. And so that morning on the 15th of May with the two doctors, they made me feel really secure, and they had told me to bring your keepsakes and bring some photos. So I had my blanket, my pillow. I had brought a poster with everything that was significant to me, and they called it the altar. There were flowers and candles and some cards with positive messages. And Jean-Francois says, "Are you ready?" So I took the 25 milligrams synthetic psilocybin. And within 20 minutes, and there's a playlist. I want to emphasize the playlist because the playlist was the vehicle that permitted me to go through those waves up and down. The playlist is done especially so that your voyage will bring you at different places in you. And that playlist was just imprinted in every cell of my body. And yesterday and this morning, I was listening again to the playlist because I listen to it regularly when I'm feeling down, or my mom died last week and it was our funeral on Saturday. And so it's been a tough couple of days. So I put this playlist on, and it's just so soothing every time I listen to it. And it's been since 2024, and it's still soothing when I listen to the playlist. So during that first session,
Diane. My condolences about your mom.
oh, thank you. So it's been a very hectic month for me, but still, I'm doing okay. And what I went through during that first session was just gratitude and ecstasy and healing. And it was just, I revisited my whole life. I saw people that were significant in my life that helped me or accompanied me during different parts of my life. And the colors were fantastic. Purple and orange and yellow, and it was just absolutely beautiful. And the music that, I like music like anybody else, but I had never felt the beauty and the intensity of music. It's like it sort of went inside me, and it brought out so much gratitude and so much, I don't know. And everybody says it's hard to describe what we go through because it's so intense, and no words can describe exactly the intensity of what we go through. And there were parts that were tough. My name in Greek is Artemis, who is a goddess. And she's the goddess of the hunt, and she's a warrior. And I've often identified with her. And so during this first session, I wanted to grab my water bottle, and inside of me, my inner warrior, she was saying, "We don't need anything. You don't need to drink water. You can do this by yourself, and you're not going to ask for help." And I was going, oh my God, I was fighting with myself. I took off the eye mask, and I stood up, and I told Dr. Stéphane, "I'm fighting against myself. I know I'm resisting. I don't want to go." And he says, in a soft, soft voice, "I know. Let me help you. We talked about this. We talked about this trigger." And so eventually I calmed down and put the mask back on, and he sat right beside me, and I was holding on to him with two hands. And I went, I don't know where. At one point I was in a beehive, but no bees. It was just like this beautiful color, and all the alveoli and everything was like, what am I doing here? And sometimes I was on the top of a mountain in a cave where everything was black. And I relived some trauma experience, but not the same way. It was like reliving certain things that you think you've got that are finished, but they sort of come back and you make peace with it. And the most spectacular image is I see myself around maybe 8 years old, and I'm running in a field of beautiful wildflowers, and I'm holding something in my right hand, and I'm saying, I'm running and I'm running, and all of a sudden I let go of what's in my right hand, and I say, oh, I just let go of my expectations. And what I forgot to tell you is before every appointment, Zoom appointment, before the session and at the session, they always ask you, what is your intention? Mm-hmm. And going into this, my intention was, I want to let go of my expectations and just go where I need to go. Mm-hmm. So here I am running, letting go of what's in my hand, the expectations, and I keep running, and I'm in front of this beautiful, huge white pine, which is my favorite tree. And so I sit to my back in front of that pine tree, and my funeral urn is an ecological one where I'm going to be buried with the pine tree seeds. So I'm going to grow as a pine tree. That's and so when beautiful. I saw myself sitting by that pine tree, I said, oh, everything is connected. Oh, everything is connected. Everything is within everything. It was like, I do not have to be scared anymore for my boys, my grandkids. It was like, because everything is connected and everything continues, fear sort of disappeared. Expectations of what could go wrong sort of disappeared. And it lasted for 7 hours. And it's really like, it's like a play where there's an introduction and there's a peak and then a plateau and then you come down gradually. And the playlist is made exactly for that, as though you're riding the waves. And after that first session, we have our first integration meeting the next day. And Dr. Stefan says, yeah, well, there was a lot of anger towards that cancer. Do you think you want to do another session and maybe accept your cancer? And inside of me, I didn't say this out loud, but I was saying, why? Why do I have to accept cancer? I don't want to accept cancer. Never will I accept cancer, because if I accept cancer, I accept to die. I don't want to die. And so right then and there, I knew what the second session would be. So, but even after that integration period, the weeks that followed, which was like June, it was like summer and spring, everything was so, so peaceful, and I felt unified, and I felt wholeness, and because with psilocybin, what it does to your brain, you're in neuroplasticity. And they told me for the next month, your brain is like a child's brain. Everything is open. So now is the time to develop new strategies to deal with anxiety and anguish. And a few weeks later, I went somewhere and I felt the anger coming up, and I would usually punch with my words if I'm not happy or something is not right. And instantly, inside of me, I said, there must be another way to deal with this. I just turned around, got out of that building, and I went by the Ottawa River and just sat down in front of the rapids and stayed there for an hour. And the rapids were really big. And I was saying to myself, oh my God, even if there are a lot of rapids and it's intense, I can still follow the flow. I don't have to go against the current. And so that was the first example of a new strategy due to this neuroplasticity and something that was inside me. And my drama queen sort of took a hike. She sort of, because that was nice. And so those months were quite peaceful, and when I saw Dr. Stefan at the beginning of the autumn, we were talking already about the second session in November. but this would be a group session with 2 other women who had breast cancer. And we had 5 facilitators for that session. Yeah. And so we did the preparation, and we did a Zoom meeting with everybody, all the facilitators and the other women who were going to do this. And we did this in Montreal. And which was different because you're not alone in there. But it was the first time that we had 2 women facilitators. For me, it was the first time. And so when you get there, there's a beautiful, we all sat down in a circle. There was this beautiful ritual with flowers and prayers. And it was very intimate with everybody. We were 8 people. And we had to tell our intentions. My first meetings for the second session, my first intention was to accept cancer. And all through the preparation, everything changed. I said, I don't want to accept cancer. I don't want to go there. What can I do? So I decided, well, I think I'll just accept my vulnerability and see where it brings me. And that morning of the group session, all of a sudden, my intention changed, and it was, I want to go and meet my inner self. And it just popped up. Not knowing what that meant for me in the hours that followed, which were quite intense. But it went well because we were each in a corner of that room, and we had eye shields, and we had the headphones. So we're not hearing what's going on, and everybody is listening to the same playlist, which is a different playlist from the first time. And so Dr. Stefan says, well, girls, I want you to, as a symbol, I want you all to take your psilocybin at the same time. So we all looked at each other, took the psilocybin, and I said, uh-oh, this is it. No turning back now. Mm-hmm. And so we all went to our little corner with one of the facilitators. And the colors were quite different. The playlist was different. Instead of huge colors, it was like prisms that would move like this, and earthy colors. And I'm very controlling and analytical. And a few times Dr. Farzin would just pop up my headphones. Diane, you are not in control. Let go. Let go. So that was funny because we had talked about that a lot. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, there's a new music that comes on, and I'm like, oh, this is where I die. Oh, this is where I die. And there was no fear, there was no anger, no stress. It was, oh, this is where I die. And I saw like a tunnel with beautiful colors. It was like an energy pulse with red and silver and white. So I followed that energy, and all of a sudden I was just completely immobile. The immobility that I had never felt before. There was no fear or anything. It was just, and I could tell I was hardly breathing. I felt as though it was peaceful and complete immobility. And everything was okay. And then another music started, and it took me somewhere else. And then Dr. Farzin came along, maybe a little bit toward the end, and I had the photo of my kids and my grandkids, and I was looking at him, and I was talking to him about the legacy, the psychological legacy that I want to leave my grandkids. And I was saying, it's okay that I died. Not that I'm going to die. It's okay that I died, because I know they're going to be okay. I know that everything continues and that everything is connected. So both those 2 sessions helped me with the peace that I needed and I wanted with this diagnosis, not knowing whenever.
Yeah.
And because my intention was to go and meet my inner self. At one point, I told Jean-Francois I was in a chair because I can't lie down on my back. So I got up and I went on my knees, and I'm on my knees in front of Jean-Francois, Dr. Stéphane, and I was holding up this warrior princess that my niece had got for me in Greece, which has Artemis on it, which had Diana on it. And I identified with her, and I'm holding on to her, and I'm saying to Jean-Francois, I have to put her down. I have to put her down. She's tired. She's so tired of fighting. I wish I could put her down. And on my knees, and I'm hurting on my knees. And Dr. Farzin comes along with a big pillow to put under my knees, and I look at him. I say, no, I need the pain. I need the pain. The pain kept me alive, kept her fighting. Please don't take away the pain. And here I am with this little thing in my hand and wondering, am I going to be able to put her down? And I don't know how long I stayed there, because you lose completely the notion of time. And all of a sudden, there was like a clarity that just came over me. And I took this warrior and I just put her on her side on the floor. And I said, oh, okay. But still, inside of me, because I couldn't get up by myself, and inside of me, it was saying, you will not ask for help. You will not ask him to help you get up. You can do this by yourself. Show them that you're strong. And I'm going, oh my God, she's so friggin' strong. And I don't know how long. And then all of a sudden, this clarity came over me, and I looked at Dr. Stéphane, and I held out my hands, and I said, could you please help me sit down? And I sat down in the chair, and I felt my hips just widen and sink into the chair. And I said, oh, I'm finally home. And now I can just be a grandmother. Just be a grandmother. So that was very, very significant for me. And the other significant thing was, all my life I've been in therapy, going to classes, doing all sorts of things and classes on psychology, always wondering. I felt sometimes like I was Indiana Jones, looking for a treasure, looking for an answer or a treasure that would bring clarity or truth to my life. And I see myself, and I'm buzzed, okay? I'm on psychedelics. And I look at Jean-Francois, and he has hair down to there, curly, a little beard and mustache. And I look at him and I say, ah, you're a wolf. He looked like a wolf. His eyebrows were sticking out like this, and his beard was big, and he had his hair was like all propped up. And I said, you're a lone wolf. You're a lone wolf. You're just like me. Please, please, please help me. Help me find what I'm looking for. And I'm holding on to him, and I'm holding on to him. Please, please help me, help me. And then I as though I was going up a mountain, and it would be there, the treasure would be there, or the answer would be there. And finally I get there. And all of a sudden I say, what? That's it? That's the answer? And I start laughing and laughing and laughing. He says, what did you find? I said, I found myself. I was at the top of the mountain. And I'm laughing and laughing and laughing. He says, yeah, it's a bit disappointing, eh? We think we're going to find something, and we're the ones that we're looking for. And it was perfect, because my intention was to go and find myself, and we're always looking outside of ourselves. And so I'm laughing, and I said, oh my gosh, I think I'm going to become a stand-up comic from now on, because they all talk about crazy things they do, and I can certainly tell about these last 50 years where I'm looking for something and all of a sudden I have to laugh at myself because all the time I had it. So that was also very significant. Mm-hmm. And there was this sort of energy between the three women, because when I took off my earphones or my eye mask, one of the girls had gone out. They were in a separate room. You couldn't go in a separate room if you wanted to be by yourself. And the other person was having a lot of trouble. She was going through something very, very intense. And me, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, I'm a nurse. Of course, I wanted to go help her. And I said to myself, listen, she's in her own story. Let her be in her own story. She has exactly what she needs to get through this. Close your eyes and go back into your own story. And that helped me because I realized at which point I'm always offering to help everybody. And sometimes it's not really helpful because you're sort of telling them, well, you can't do it, but I know what the answer is. I'll tell you what to do. And it gives you sort of a false a power trip. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to try and let people live through their own story and not me intruding and going into their own story. So that was big also. And I'm still trying to apply that and just sort of go, be quiet. Just be quiet. And the weeks that followed, we had integration, and we did a group integration with the others, which was really nice. And the sensation was I felt unified. And I stayed alone in my apartment for 5 days because I couldn't see anybody. It was so intense what you go through that I didn't want to dissipate what I was going through by being exposed to other people and other stories and everything. And the gratitude, the healing, there's a lot of inner healing also. And there was healing about, because in the first session I remember I would go on my breast because I've got cancer, and I would say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. So there was a lot of self-soothing, and I don't know the word in English, being good to myself in saying, it's okay, mm-hmm. You did everything you could, and whatever happened, happened. And so that was in 2024, in November, and we're now in 2026. And I'm still feeling the effects of the psilocybin. When I thought the drama queen had disappeared, but she didn't. She sort of popped up one day and I said, oh, I thought she was gone. I would want to get rid of her. But realizing that every time I try to get rid of something, it comes back with more force. So I said, okay, I'll let you live with me, but I want you to stay calm. Be silent if you can. If you need to tell me something, tell me. And so instead of yelling to me, my drama queen whispers, which is helping me a lot in my different reactions to whatever I'm going through. So that was a big part with the drama queen. And sometimes, she forgets and she might yell a little bit, but I'm better equipped to deal with her and my reactions because I'm impulsive and I'm intense and I want answers. So even a year later, it's going to be 2 years since I did my first session in May. Wow. And when I talk about it, I still feel the intensity, the gratitude, I had never felt ecstasy. And I felt ecstasy in that first. It was like, ecstasy and being alive and sensing everything with so much. I don't have the words really. It's so beautiful. And there were parts that were hard. There were parts that were scary. And when people ask me, "But weren't you scared?" I say I was really, really scared. I felt I was jumping off a cliff, not knowing what was at the bottom. But hope was stronger than fear. The hope of feeling better, of being able to live with this diagnosis, to be able to not be so afraid of dying. And both sessions brought that peace to me and brought me that calm. If tomorrow my oncologist says, because I really am meeting my oncologist tomorrow, if she says, "Well, you only have 6 months to live," I'm going to yell and I'm going to scream and I'm going to cry for sure. But everything that I've gone through, once the shock has passed about the news, I know that it's going to be peaceful. And I talk about this to my boys and my grandkids. Not that they want to hear me talk about it because they're uncomfortable, but I'm not keeping anything in. And it's helping them for their own grief when I do pass. So, of course, when my mom passed on the weekend, she passed on the 31st of March, and her funeral was on Saturday. The casket was there, and I think we were all crying, but I think parts of us were crying thinking, well, that could be me. And how long will it be before I'm in the casket? So I was seeing my boys cry and my grandkids, and I was wondering, what are they crying, or who are they crying? So it was pretty intense. So that's why for the past 2 days I've been listening to my playlist that calms and soothes me so much. And I'm just so grateful for this experience. It was wonderful. And the second session, there was this sacred feminine going on. There was a sorority that we felt between us and with the facilitators. And at one point, I was with Dr. Stefan, and I said, "Please get Emily for me. I need Emily. I need Emily." And Emily came, and I just grabbed her, and I was crying and crying, but I had no words. It was just like I was crying the injustice, I was crying the violence, I was crying everything that we cry about as women. And that moment was so strong, and I needed a woman to hold on to. And it was like there was sort of a healing and a compassion, or we understand each other and we have the same language when we're talking about this. So that made a difference also for me to have a woman present.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And thank you so much for being so generous with your storytelling. I could listen to you talk all day. I mean, you could take over this podcast if you like. Wow, I don't even know where to start there. Yeah, what would you say, I guess to finish off, some advice for other people that might be thinking about going through with psilocybin therapy, or maybe even facilitators, how they can cultivate a safe space for individuals going through it? What would you maybe provide as advice to those individuals?
For the patients, I would say never do this alone, and go and get professionals, the facilitators. And I knew that the doctors had done the psilocybin, and they knew where I was when I was in it and when I was having trouble. And that gave me confidence. I felt totally safe and secure with these two doctors, and that even at the second session also. And they do not intervene. They intervene only if you ask or if you're having a problem. And so the preparation, the appointments before you do it, and the integration are very, very important. And the integration is still going on for me, I'm sure. And you have to have confidence. And well, the side effect that I was afraid of, I was said, oh, what happens if I go into psychosis? You know, that was my fear as a nurse. Of course, I went there automatically. And sure, I guess it is a possibility. That's why they do a screening. And if you've had mental health problems with hallucinations, you're not a candidate for this. Okay? So, but because for me, hope was stronger than fear, I went in, you know, with no hesitation. And because the facilitators were so compassionate and they believed in the success of this treatment, especially when you're going through the worst part of your life is facing death. So as cancer patients, if it can bring you peace, for me, that's worth all the fear in the world. And of course, some people don't have good sessions like I did. But you're never alone. You're always accompanied. And for the facilitators, what helped me the most was they did not intervene. Only when I needed help. And when I just took off my mask and I was saying, Jean-Francois, I need help. I'm fighting against myself. What do? I know where you want me to go, but I don't want to go. And he was just so calm, and his voice was so soft. And the fact that he sat right beside me and I was holding on to him with two hands, that just brought me the security and the confidence to go where I needed to go, which was my intention. Let go of my expectations and just go where I need to go. And Dr. Farzin talked about inner healing intelligence. And I knew that inner healing intelligence knew where I needed to go. Because at the integration, I said, how come I didn't talk about that person? And it's a very difficult relationship with that person. And then I said, oh, because if I had talked about that person, I would have had a different session full of fear and hate. And instead, my inner healing intelligence, because of my intention, can I just let go of my expectations, go where I needed to go? And that's why I'm sure that my unconscious with this inner healing intelligence let me go through something beautiful and peaceful. Even if they were dark places, it was like, I'm safe. You really need to feel safe. And the fact that they had gone through with the psilocybin, if I had to do another session, I would want my facilitators to have done psilocybin, because it is so intense and there are so many, because they know where I am or how I'm going through it, that even made me feel secure, the fact that they knew what was going on. And I know that some won't, and that's okay. But for me, that did make a difference also.
Mm-hmm. And you talked a bit about the difference between the individual session and the group session. So do you think that one was more helpful, or is there a place for both in someone's psychedelic therapy journey?
Personally, I would start with an individual session because, one, I didn't know how I would react. I was afraid maybe I'll go crazy and that I'll disturb the other people. And that was a fear going into the second session, because I'm very verbal and I talked through the whole thing. And I said, I don't want to disrupt what they're going through. But you have the earphones and the eye mask, so it wasn't a problem. But I would do an individual session first. And I wanted all the attention to myself also. Mm-hmm. It made me safe knowing there were two doctors with me. You know, and they told me at the beginning of the session, we're here for you to make sure you are safe. We can intervene if something happens, whether physically or psychologically. They had everything they needed. Okay. So, and there's a lot of surrender. You have to accept to surrender. And that's very, very, very hard. And they keep saying, when you reach that door and you don't want to go through it, that's exactly where you have to go through that door. So,
And I think just to finish off, for our listeners, just so that we, I guess, paint the full picture, would you say or would you agree with the statement that psilocybin is not a magic pill or a magic
it is
therapy?
it is not a magic pill. It helped me a lot. When I finished my session in 2024, in 2025, when January comes, I always crash a little bit since the cancer, because it's like I see the 12 months and I'm going, oh, is it this year that I die? So that sort of brings me down. And then I realized I was in my 4th year of a 5-year prognosis, and I was scared. And I was saying, oh my God, is this the end? And I crashed. And so I talked to my family doctor, and he said, well, do you want to go back on antidepressants? Because I was on antidepressants before the psilocybin, which I stopped because I wanted the full effect of the psilocybin. And I said, well, and I didn't want to disappoint Dr. Farzin and Dr. Stefan, and I felt bad that I just finished my session. Why would I go back? I felt like I didn't do enough, or it wasn't okay. And my family doctors, I said, well, I'll wait after the summer. Well, with the sun, everything will be okay. He says, why would you wait? Why don't you want to be okay now? Why wait? So I said, yeah, okay. I want to be happy. I want to be okay now. So I started back on my antidepressants, and I'm doing really well. And I still get downs. I still, the last month has been very, very hard. But I still cry. I still laugh. I still feel my emotions. I'm not a zombie. And the psilocybin with what I need now with the antidepressants, well, it's a good match for me. And and we're always wanting to be so friggin' strong and not needing any help, and I don't need therapy, and I don't need antidepressants, and I don't want to feel vulnerable. I don't want others to see me as fragile. Complete bullshit. Just be who you are and go and get the help you need. And at the end, it is important to be sort of at peace. And you did everything you could, and you lived your life the way you wanted.
Well, thank you so much, Diane. That was so inspiring, and I so deeply appreciate you joining us and sharing your story.
Thank you so much. For me, it's a privilege, because every time I talk about it, it brings me back, and I feel so good. And I just hope that it opens up for mental health and for the anguish of a terminal diagnosis with a not so nice prognosis. And I've gone over my 5 years. And I did a journalist called me and said, I'm doing a story on people who go over their prognosis, and I want to know how you feel. And 3 of us answered, and we all said the same thing. Now what? We were preparing for death. We let everything go. We sold what we needed to sell. We said what we needed to say. Now what? We're still here. So that was also like a revelation. Okay, I'm not alone thinking that. So when I talk to people about this, it gives me purpose. And I need purpose in my life.
Well, thank you again.
Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation with Diane Gratton. I'd like to thank the Center for Psychedelics, Health and Research at Queen's University and the support of our sponsors at the Ontario Brain Institute, the Canadian Biomarker Integration Network in Depression, and Providence Care Hospital. Until next time, be well and integrate wisely.